This is Ladies Kickin' Ass, a helpful and encouraging podcast for women who are in or support the service and trade industries. My name is Tanya Wilson, and I am passionate about giving women in this industry a platform to tell their hard-earned stories and provide coaching, encouragement, and business hacks to help you build the business of your dreams. What's different about this podcast? We are real, and that means most of us are trying to juggle being an entrepreneur, manager, raising a family, being a partner, wife, sister, friend, doggy mama, and more. We discuss the wins, the losses, business, relationships, family, and above it all, loving and believing in yourself. I'm on a mission to build a community of women that are supporting and celebrating the fact that most of us don't have our shit together, and that's okay. But together, with great support, we can do it all. Come on, let's do this. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. Okay, well, what can I say? I just truly admire and love what my guest today is all about. She is truly a lady kicking ass in both her real estate career and now through her nonprofit organization, Community on Purpose. She's a busy working mama to a 2.5-year-old little guy and shows up all over social media all the time, giving real estate buying or selling tips, market reports, or serving through the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce in the Women in Leadership series. I'm not sure how you have much time left in your day, but her new podcast, Community on Purpose, is also now live and absolutely incredible, just telling stories of wonderful women. And I can't wait to hear all about it in more detail from her today. So, Mindy Jones, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so pumped about this conversation, and I want to talk about all the good things that you have going on and introduce you to my community of ladies so that they can know what your organizations are about and what you're trying to do throughout your real estate career. So tell me a little bit about your real estate team and what you have going on there.
For sure. So I'm super honored to lead a team of 12 women. So we have 8 real estate agents and 4 full-time staff members. And we work primarily in the residential real estate space, although we want our clients to think of us if they need anything real estate related and really community related. So we get a lot of questions for doctors when people move here, or pizza places, or date nights, or whatever it might be. We really want them to think of us as a resource for them to go to. But we do primarily focus on residential real estate. All of our team lives, works, and plays primarily here in the East Valley. So the majority of our business is your kind of Gilbert, Chandler, Santan, Queen Creek, Mesa. I am a native, and many of the folks on my team are also. And so we certainly will go anywhere in the valley that we can serve. We helped about 125 families in 2021 as a team. Did about $60 million in real estate, helping people buy, sell, invest. Certainly there's been a lot of change in the market over the last couple of years, and it's been really fun to help people do things that they really never thought were possible. So that's primarily our platform. Everybody on the real estate team are women, and most of them moms, hardworking mamas. And my job is really to help them be the best real estate professionals that they can, make sure that they're getting all of the best tools, resources, that we have the best systems and platform for them to plug into, and also ensure that they're giving back to the community at a high level. So creating opportunities for them to do that. And then personally, I really want to be the best leader that I can for them. So help them succeed in ways that many of them didn't really ever think was possible.
Isn't that amazing when you do put that thought even into their minds about setting goals and ways to get to them and instructing and leading them on how to do that? What a difference that makes, not only for them as people, but as team members. I'm sure you see that as well.
Yeah, I think I've always viewed the world as if I just worked hard enough, I could get whatever I wanted. So I never felt like anything was out of my reach. I knew things were going to be hard, and maybe I couldn't visualize them because I didn't know anybody who had done it. But I've never had that feeling of like, I can't have that, or I'm not allowed to have that. You know, sometimes people see a fancy car that goes by and they'll say, oh, I wish I could have that. And I'm like, why can't you have that? I mean, what I have today is not anything like what I grew up with. I don't live the same kind of life. I don't live in the same kind of area. I could never have imagined that this is where I would be. And yet I don't think that anything is out of my reach. And so I think to be able to build a business where I can pass along that lens in which I view life feels like a really big opportunity for me. And it feels like in some ways that that's one of the things that I'm really meant to do on this earth. Where my challenge always is that I can't want it more for someone than they want it for themselves.
Yes.
And that has been a lifelong lesson and something I will have to continue to learn time and time again. I always, because I have such a strong feeling about being able to achieve things, I just assume everybody else has that. And so I lead them in that way, and I coach them in that way, and I'm friends with them in that way. And if you don't pay attention to some of the signs along the way, you can miss that really you want something for them that maybe they can't see or don't want or can't put the work into getting.
Yes. Some people just, like you talk about, like you live a completely different life than the way that you were raised with things. I'm sure probably raising your son in a different way, you have made that choice to make the change for that. And for a lot of people, that is one of the most frightening things that they can do.
And it's all really about choices, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of my agents said that to me the other day. I was commending her on some choices that she had made around getting her kids through school without debt and now having money to be able to buy an investment property. And I was like, wow, look, I'm always trying to point out the good in other people. And when they succeed or they do something that I think is great, I'm always trying to tell them that and show it to them. And so I said something to her like that. And she said, it really was just choices that we made.
Yeah.
And it's like your first response is, no, I'm trying to compliment you, take the compliment, but then you really listen to what she's saying. And it's so true. It's such a valuable lesson. We really have the option to make choices every single day, more than we can even count or realize that we're making intentionally. And with each of those choices, you either set yourself up to advance in life, grow, evolve, or you choose to close the door on things that you don't think are possible for you.
Sure. And being part of a person on your team, I'm sure the ones that develop well with that kind of leadership are the ones that have their eyes open to the possibilities that are out there. Because there's an awful lot of people in the world that's like, must be nice, which my entire team knows is like fingernails on a chalkboard to make. So I'm like, you can have whatever the hell you want to if you will actually work hard enough to get to where you want to go. And I think sometimes people just need somebody to believe in them. And yet there are some people that just are not going to make that choice. The comfort is in what they've known. So I think that's a very unique thing about you, and a great thing for you to bring to a community is having that limitless attitude about things, like you can get whatever you want to have if you're willing to work hard enough to get it, and helping other people see that's not a selfish thing. That's not a stingy thing. That's not me being bratty. I truly believe in myself. When you have somebody on your team that maybe is struggling with that, because I've definitely had that before too, how do you work with that person?
I think that one thing that I've learned over time is I've learned who I am a good coach and mentor for and who I'm not. And what I mean by that is really twofold. One, there's a certain type of people that I get joy out of uplifting, and those are really going to be the people that have the drive and the determination, or who present with some type of a challenge and are willing to work through it. So It's not that they don't ever get in the muck, but they get back out quickly. So those are the kinds of people that I feel joy in coaching and mentoring. The other part is just people that I'm going to be the best fit for them. I think that's a leadership lesson that I've had to learn over the years, is that I'm not going to be the best leader for everybody. And if someone is not thriving under my leadership, there may be some personal I can look inwards and figure out what I need to be doing to be a better leader. But sometimes I think it's also identifying that someone might need something different.
Yeah.
And so when I have conversations with agents that are struggling, I really take them through the things that help me when I'm struggling. The best way that I know how to coach is through my own learned experiences. And for me, it's setting up a lot of systems and processes and checking in on myself and kind of taking the challenges that I'm being faced with and looking at them from a solutions oriented perspective and trying to figure out, how to fix it and taking action. That's one thing that I really, learned from my mom at a very young age, was just to take the action. Mm-hmm. You can't sit around and talk about why it won't work or put up all of the barriers that you could to success without actually trying it. You have to fail, right? I mean, you have to try something to make it work. And so I'm always just trying to get them into action so that they can then assess the action and see if it's actually going to work for them or not. That's probably the greatest tip that I give them, is just to really try to put something into place and see how it will work out. If it doesn't work, identify the challenges and try to do something different. I think what I struggle with, or what my agents sometimes struggle with, is because I'm very solution oriented and because I believe everything will work out, I think that they often think that it comes easy for me, mm-hmm. or that I don't have bad days. And I've learned that I need to be more transparent about the challenges that I face or the difficulties that I face. And also, I believe that one of the ways I've been able to get through life is to maintain a solutions-oriented and positive outlook on life. And so you're not going to find me posting on social media the crap that I'm dredging through. And it's not because I'm hiding it, or it's not because I'm not open about I'm a very open person about the challenges that I'm experiencing, but I'm only going to express them if there's some purpose to the expression. You won't find me being the negative person in the room, just dumping on everybody around me if there isn't a purpose for it. I'll empathize, right? Mm-hmm. If someone's giving me something that they're going through, I'll be wholly open and empathetic so that they can understand that I really do understand where they're coming from. But you won't find me being the one that's dumping. And I'd caution people to think that when they see people like that, to assume that means it's always easy or comes naturally or there's no lows with the highs.
Yeah, for sure. I just saw a thing on Facebook actually this weekend, and it was talking about that you got to check on your strong friend too. Sometimes, people think, oh, she's got it. And sometimes those people got it because that becomes, that's just part of their core. They'll never let you know that they don't have it, but those people still need to have the love and support and check in. I think that is a big reason why you and I connected so much, is that we both have that kind of personality, but we can also sit down and talk about like this mom and shit stuff. Sometimes it's very difficult.
Totally. 100%.
So I love the realness about you. So, and I think that can help a lot of people too. I think that's a really great way for you to be able to connect, and why you're so great at building community is because you do have that realness about you that people will connect with. It's very difficult to connect with somebody that's just like shit never happens to them.
Totally. And I think some of that is getting clarity around who you even are. And that obviously changes over time. But I've learned so much in my leadership journey of being with the real estate team and then now growing the nonprofit and doing all of the things that we do in the community. I've gotten a lot of clarity around who I am, the stage of life that I'm in, which I know will change. I'm a toddler mom and I run a business and I'm divorced. And I mean, there's some labels, if you will, that I am okay owning at this place in my life. And the ownership of those things then allows me to be clearer and more authentic and more real, if you will, because I'm not confused about who I am or what stage I'm at.
Sure. And you're not embarrassed about any of those things. I think that's one of the things with women so much. It's like you're embarrassed to tell people about what situation you're in. Everybody's been through the crap. It's like the ones that get up and keep going with stuff, is that grittiness.
Totally.
Is a very attractive thing in a woman, I think. It definitely is for me.
Yeah, I got a lot, and I agree. Grit is one of my favorite words, and I
Mhm.
probably use it too much, but to me, it's the backbone of what makes someone resilient and powerful and sustainable and be able to live a big life, because it doesn't at all imply anything about perfection. It implies that whatever happened to you, you were able to get back up. And
Yep.
to me, that is the greatest characteristic you could ever have. I'm glad you mentioned the embarrassment thing, though. I got a lot of questions after my divorce. I didn't post anything on social media. Again, it kind of goes back to, I didn't see a reason. That was kind of like a weird thing to just say, I'm divorced. Like, if I'm talking to you, I'm happy to tell you. I don't have any fear about sharing it. But it wasn't like I needed like a celebratory post, or I don't know what people expected, but I got a lot of questions, and they were like, are you okay if we tell someone or we talk about it or whatever? And I was just, I don't know why, unfortunately, we've gotten to this place with women that there should be anything that we go through in life that we should be embarrassed about, unless we're embarrassed about the choices that we made. And I was not embarrassed about the choice that I made. And so it's just been interesting. That's probably been one thing that's come up in my adult life, where I felt that from other people. I don't know that I've been through many other things where I felt like I was supposed to be embarrassed about it. But that certainly was one where I got just a lot of really weird kind of questions and, potential for judgment. And I feel proud about the way that I kind of handled it, and really just didn't understand where it was coming from.
Yeah, I think if you've been through a divorce, you've been through that. It's almost like, oh, this like baby bird needs some help now. Those were decisions that we ended up making to make a better choice in our life at some point, with things. So I think if you've been through that, that's something that you should definitely not be embarrassed about. There's always a rough time that comes with that, but damn, the skies are much sunnier and shinier on the other side of that heartache too. So you talk about Community on Purpose.
Yeah.
Tell us what that is about. That is your nonprofit, and also your podcast is involved in that. So tell us what that serves and why you wanted to do that.
For sure. So I've had the real estate business. I've been in the real estate industry for about a decade. And I've been so proud of where we've been able to take the team. My background is in community work, and both as a volunteer and as a professional. And so community has always been massively important to me. I don't believe that we're supposed to go through this life on our own. I have experience in navigating the nonprofit world. I get joy out of bringing people together to accomplish a project or to volunteer for a place. I love giving exposure to organizations that are already doing work in our community. And I also feel a huge sense of responsibility being a real estate agent to ensure that we're not leaving anybody behind in our community. I take my role as a real estate professional very seriously, in that I am helping families in real estate, and I am also helping to drive the betterment of our communities as a whole that I work in. And so for me, we have become an established real estate team. We have done well. We have continued to grow. And it really just started to seem like the right time to create a house for all the community work that we were already doing, and to give me a path in which I could engage more community members to create something even bigger. So volunteering has always been a big part of the Amy Jones Group. Doing projects at nonprofits has always been a big part of the Amy Jones Group. But this is really like the next step for me that allows us to continue to work in an even bigger way in the community. So the focus of Community on Purpose is really threefold. One is to support women in leadership and business. That's obviously something that's near and dear to your heart, to my heart. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. And there's a lot of different women's such a broad category, right? There's a lot of different women that you can support. And so my primary focus is helping people who want to live big lives and who have big dreams and who may not feel like they are in the right company to be able to do that. Either they don't have the education, they don't have the expertise, they don't feel like they can walk in a room and they belong there, right? And so creating opportunities to help people feel comfortable that they belong in any room that they want to be in. The second piece is supporting organizations who support youth and families. So obviously, as a mom and as somebody who has always really felt the importance of children and giving children the right environment to be able to make an impact in the world, organizations that are already supporting youth and families is very important to me. So that allows us to recruit volunteers and do projects. Last year, we supported ICANN in Chandler, the House of Refuge in Mesa, the Closed Cabin here in Gilbert, and a variety of different organizations for youth and families. And then the third piece is really tied to the real estate business, which is it allows us to do direct giving to families when the Amy Jones Group uncovers situations. So, for example, you're selling somebody's house, you find out that the dad or the mom's office closed, or their job, was eliminated, or someone was in a car accident, or, it allows us to do direct giving to those families when we uncover needs like that.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
That is like concierge service to its highest degree with real estate. I've never heard of anybody even being concerned about that before. So that is really an incredible thing to be able to do for the community.
Thank you. There's some really great real estate agents out there. I would say that it's probably one of the most giving professions that I have ever come across. There's so many real estate agents who are looking to improve their community, and they do, events for their clients. And it's just not every industry is really obsessed with trying to be good people. And unfortunately, there are also people that don't function that way, and they're just salespeople. And so I feel a responsibility to my industry as well to raise the bar of professionalism and ensure that people understand that there is a certain way that I think that business should be done.
And I admire that 100%, because anybody that listens to this podcast knows that I am all about that. And a lot of that comes with resistance too from your industry, because people don't want to have to invest the time or invest the money in the training or create these team environments that actually invest in what you're trying to do with community themselves personally too. I'm sure for the agents that work with your office, being, getting them involved with stuff. What do you say to maybe people in your industry that may be like, well, that's kind of silly, or that's a little too much?
I think that your success is equally related to how much work that you do and the environment that you put yourself into and the people that you surround yourself with, right? They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so I think for people that have that sentiment, they're likely not in an environment that believes in giving back, that believes in living big dreams and big goals and doing the best thing for their community. And so those just aren't circles that I'm going to ever find myself in, not by accident and not by choice. We specifically chose the brokerage that we're at because they do a lot of community giving and they have an incredible office culture. Culture to my team is imperative. There are plenty of people out there who do a ton of real estate business who just wouldn't be a good fit for our team, and we're not going out there and recruiting them. We know that we're doing a good job from a marketing and branding perspective when the people that apply to our team are like us. And that isn't a ideology, that isn't a look, that isn't any of those things. It's the core values that we have of working hard, providing good client service, giving back to our community, being good people, supporting each other, having a safe, supportive environment within the Amy Jones Group. So I think that people that resist that thought, they just simply aren't thinking big enough. And it's unfortunate, and I feel bad, and I think they'll have a shelf life in this industry.
Absolutely. Those are the types too. We run into that. We had an issue this morning that we had performed a septic inspection and the tank is falling apart. Like literally you can see where the guys have grabbed handfuls of concrete. Like that needs to be replaced. That is the right thing to do. And it was like a tedious, stamp sized lot too. So there was digging up driveways and all this stuff. And the lady sent an email this morning and was like, you will give me a refund. I called someone else and they said that this tank is in good working order and wrote me a inspection report. And even when it comes down to stuff like that, she threatened to go to the banking institution and say we didn't do our job and on and on. Let's go, because I will stand till the end of time by my inspector and his report on that, because we did what was right in not allowing this new home buyer to go in blindly to a crappy septic system because this person had chose not to pump their tank for 40 years. It is one of those things where even when you're threatened by people, that are going out and bashing your company and bashing your name, that you continue to stand, like you have morals and ethics and standards so strong that even when you are threatened like that of taking the money away from the service, you don't cave. You educate, and hopefully they can see that point. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
For sure.
But those aren't the companies that we run in circles with or we compare ourselves to.
Exactly right.
And I think that sometimes people have good work ethic and they have good things, but the pressure to be like everybody else is so great that they end up caving. So whatever it is that you're doing for work, I think you would stand by me and make sure that you could do it with every fiber in your being the way that you think it should be done, and keep it that way.
Which is really how you should make choices in general in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things have to feel good. You have to be able to sleep at night. You have to be able to stand by the choices you make and comfortably talk about the choices you make. A lot of people will say, oh, you're so comfortable talking about your business, or you're so eloquent in talking about your community work, or, they'll make comments like that. And I appreciate that I have a God-given talent of language. And now that's been passed on to my 2.5-year-old, like it or not. He is well-versed in all the things he needs to know. And I also do things that feel right for me. And so it's not difficult to talk about things because I believe them and I understand them and I'm wholly committed to them. And this is how I run my life. And so it's very easy for me to talk about stuff that I'm passionate about, which is probably a tip for people in general, that if things are difficult, it may be that you don't wholly believe them. And so I think one of the best tips in business or your personal life is really to understand your passion. And even if you do a job where, maybe you're making your chip manufacturer, I don't know, whatever the example is, and you're not super passionate about chips. I'm not saying that you have to be passionate about every function of business, because there's obviously stuff that we just have to do because it's our job, but really figure out why you're doing it. And you hear people say, like, what's your big why? Or, to me, it's like, what's your purpose?
Yeah.
What is your purpose? And hone in on that so that no matter what you do, it's always done through that lens.
Sure. And something that I admire about you too is that you have built a business around the kind of life that you wanted to have for yourself. And I think that a lot of times people get that backwards, and they get this job and then they try to build this life around this job that just has constant instability with things. If you were given the opportunity to start all over with all of the things that you know now, what are those few key pieces of advice that you would follow right off the bat that have kind of been lessons for you?
Yeah, I mean, man, I screwed up a bunch. So there's a lot of lessons over time. But I think one thing that I did right from the beginning is I always got up at the same time every day. And I understand that that doesn't work for everybody. And I'm not saying that every self-employed person is going to fit into sort of my worldview. But I came from the corporate sector where I had an alarm. I got up at the same time every day. I got dressed and I went to an office. And that structure ensured that I worked all day, every day that I was working. And a lot of people, I think, go to start a business or become self-employed, and they're just that. They're self-employed. They're not business owners. And there is a key difference there. And for me, I still got up at the same time every day. I still showered and I got dressed. At the time, I was living in a home with a basement. I would go to my kitchen and I would make coffee, and I would still put it in a to-go mug instead of in like a home coffee mug. And I would go downstairs into my basement where my office was. And it was the first time I had ever had a home office, but I set up a whole office and I went into my basement and I worked. And then at 5 o'clock, I came back upstairs. I mean, I had that structure for myself from the beginning, and I'm grateful that I have not ever let that go by. So I still work in an office every day. I've challenged my beliefs on that over the last couple of years, as all of my staff have families and are moms and have kids. And between COVID and school closing and you know,
Yes.
I've started to challenge what I actually need from people. And is it something that I need from them? Are they able to do their jobs elsewhere? So I'm always open to challenging my mindset. But for me, having that structure has been one of my greatest assets. I do think that I have learned over time that there is no magic. There's no, shiny object that you can pay as much money as you want, but the real magic is in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that we have been on this earth for a long time, and some entrepreneurs may not like what I'm going to say, but the brain itself has been around for a long time. And while we can be creative and put our spin on things, I don't really know that there's a whole lot of like new thought. And so when you think you need to do something or figure something out, go find people that are doing it. You can change it and do it in a way that feels better for you. You can create a new business plan, but you just need to get in the room with people who are doing it. You can Google it, you can YouTube it, you can go meet people that are doing it. But I think, my greatest challenge was coming from the corporate sector. I thought I had to create everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
And going into being self-employed and starting a business, I wholly believe that the magic is in the community.
So, what advice, we're going to switch gears here a little bit, would you give to working mamas that are trying to balance all the things?
Well, I know that you have a disdain for the word balance like I do.
That's why we call it juggle, because balance gives the warped perception that somewhere this is all magically supposed to be. I spend the same amount of time with my kids and my husband and my friends and my work, and that's
not real.
BS, and we all know it. So the juggling, how do you do the thing?
Some days I do it better than others, for full transparency.
That's a good thing to say, because we all do.
Yeah. Every day I kind of look at back to like getting in the muck and getting back out, or the idea of grit, or whatever, however you want to call it. I kind of look at every day, which you can do it multiple times a day, but sometimes you need a whole day to turn your head around. But you kind of look at every day as a new opportunity to start over in that department. And however long you're going to write off until you give yourself the grace, to start back over, hopefully you start to shorten that time. It's just like a diet, right? It's like Tuesday and you eat something crappy and you're like, well, I'll start next Monday. Do you really need 6 days to get back on track? You could just start that afternoon, or start the next morning, or, So shortening that time to get out of the muck is probably one piece of advice I would give mamas. I would just say it's not easy. It's going to be challenging. And when you do feel out of balance, if you will, or for me, that presents as anxiety, just sort of start to shorten the time that you live in that space and get back to a place of trying to do something different. That's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice, and kind of the space that I'm in right now, because I do live with a toddler. I feel like I live with him, instead of he lives with me. He's very much in control a lot of times right now. And so I'm really in that space of like, I'm just kind of on this cycle of, I'm doing good, I'm not doing great, I'm not doing great. It's okay. It doesn't mean your whole life. I think I saw something on Instagram the other day that was like, just because you're in a bad situation or you're having a bad day doesn't mean you have a bad life.
Yeah. And
when you see it, you're like, duh, obviously. But it's a good reminder, right? Not everything is falling apart. One thing is kind of a mess. So give it the space and then fix it.
Yeah.
And so I just think shortening that gap in how long you sit in the muck is important. I also think it's important to be as on and off as you can. And it doesn't have to be for very large chunks of time. And I think sometimes as business owners, we feel like we can't ever turn things off. And I agree, you can't turn them off for days and days at a time unless you have a whole backup system into place.
Sure.
but you can be on and off for an hour at a time. You can be with, your kids don't need days and days of your attention. They just need your whole attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be like an hour, I'm going to be just with you, no phone, no nothing. And then mom has to work for this time or whatever it might be. So I tell my agents that a lot because they do struggle with that time balance. And it's like, just be on with him or your son or your daughter. Specifically tell them phones away, nothing. It's not a half and half. It's fully intentional, even if it's just an hour.
Yep.
And then let me go back and do this for a while. And then I'm going to come back and it'll be an hour. That's all yours. And so I think that that's a big one. Shortening the time you're in the muck, being able to be intentional about your on and your off time. And then the third one is just giving yourself grace and understanding that as a business owner and as a mom, you have at least 2 full-time jobs.
Yes.
And if that's not difficult for somebody, then they're not really working full-time in either of the jobs.
Yes.
It's just not real.
Very good. Very good. All of that is so good. That was a big thing for me this year too. And actually the whole reason why I bought an Apple Watch is like when I'm at home, and I think just because like we use our phone so much for work during the day, like mine is all like productivity or text message things on my stuff. But you're on it so much. It's such a habit to grab it. Mm-hmm. So if I don't have it, I mean, if something crazy important comes through, I can see something, but I shut everything off notification wise on my watch, unless it's like a text message and that's it. And then it can be a quick glance. I don't need that,
Yep.
It's not something that you're distracted. And then, you go to answer a text message on your phone and then you're scrolling through freaking YouTube videos and like no time flat. And you're like, what the hell am I doing?
Totally. It absolutely is habit. And if I think back, I did this once before when I first got married. We obviously didn't have kids at that point, and I used to, as a single person, just watch TV with my computer on my laptop. On my lap. That's how I would do it. I would watch TV and I'd have my computer. So when I first got married, I would just do the same thing. So we would both be sitting watching TV and I would be on my computer because I've always been able to watch TV and be on my computer. Then you realize it's not really being present to somebody else.
Yeah. And
the same is true with your kids. Even though it's there and you can multitask, it is impacting your ability to be present.
Sure.
And so being able to, and you do it without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to put it down and to have on or off time, or to make limitations like text message urgent versus email and scrolling and internet access and all of that, though, that's a smart way to put a boundary into place without pushing your business aside or your child aside.
Sure. Because they can tell. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And they'll tell you.
Yeah. Mom. Mm-hmm. So being involved in all the things I know can leave you feeling like you don't have a lot of time for yourself, but we all know how important it is to take some time for us. How do you make that time happen for you, and what do you enjoy doing during your time?
Well, again, for full transparency, I don't always do a great job at that. I do think it is important. Obviously, I believe in the power of investing in yourself, but I also want to be a good role model. And I've told this story before. One of my agents had a very busy day, and then she came to me and she was kind of proud about her day. And she said, I had a Mindy day. And I said, oh, what's a Mindy day? I'm like, my ego is all ready for, whatever she's going to tell me. And she's like, I went back-to-back appointments all day long. I didn't eat. I didn't even pee. I didn't drink any water. I got all of this stuff done, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just sitting there like speechless.
Yeah.
I want to commend her for having a busy and productive day. And I'm horrified. That's the impression that she has of me, because I would never tell somebody that it's a badge of honor to go through the day without eating or peeing. Why would I ever tell somebody that that's something that I think is a great day that they've had?
Mm-hmm.
And yet I would do that. And so that was really an eye-opener for me to be very aware of the impression that I was giving, and that I could sit and talk all day about live your biggest life and make time for yourself and invest in yourself and even support them in doing that and time block and all of this kind of stuff. But if what they saw from me was something different, then how could they ever believe me or believe that it was possible? And so I have definitely tried to be better about those kinds of things for sure. And I also am aware that sometimes it's ourselves, and often it's ourselves who gets in our own way of doing things for ourselves. So like with my son, he comes into my bed at some point in the night and he doesn't bother me, so I don't do anything about it. Sure, I'll get all this kind of hate mail about whatever, but it works for my family.
You just need some sleep.
It works for my family.
I have a little ninja too.
Yeah, so he doesn't bother me, so I just let him do whatever. So, but anyways, then he's in my bed in the morning. And so you kind of feel not as free in your morning routine because you have a sleeping child next to you. Whereas if he wasn't in there, I probably would do more of the things that I want to do in the morning for myself. So lately, I've just started getting back up and going on the Peloton. And he sleeps right through it. So it's like our own mental block of like, I can't get up because he's in the bed. Yeah. Well, first of all, he'll probably sleep through it. And second of all, so what if he gets up? He is a little bit older now. He can go grab something out of the refrigerator. I can put a blanket down in the room where the Peloton is and he can have the iPad. Like, we can work with it. That's the stage that we're at right now. Yep. So those are the things that I am trying to get better about as a single mom of a toddler. But things that I enjoy, I mean, the opposite of the Peloton, I enjoy restaurants. I enjoy live music. I enjoy some drinks. For a long time, I had a sinus issue where I couldn't have any alcohol at all. And so now that I've resolved that, I enjoy meeting people for a glass of wine. I enjoy going somewhere, and I love patio from Arizona. So, obsessed with patios and being outside when we can. And I love, love, love live music. I love listening to music in my car very, very loud. Yes. Those are the things. I love Arizona. I love seeing parts of the state that I haven't been to before. I'm a big, real small town visitor of the state. I love that kind of stuff. I don't need a huge, elaborate vacation to feel like I'm getting away. Yeah. Just need some mental time and space. Yes. Just a little spot where you can unplug for a little while and just not talk about work or your children. That's right. And it's okay. And I'm not going to apologize for that. We often find ourselves, it's so funny, when people will say, how's your child? Oh my God, he's a nightmare. Right. But I still love him. Yes. We're we never doubted that you love him, but we all do it. We all do it. I find myself doing that all the time. And then when people say it, I'm always like, see, we all do it. We know that we love them. We take care of them every day. That's right. So I know community is so big for you, and that's what Ladies Kicking Ass is all about too, is building a community of people that you can draw from. I loved what you said before about, even though you're selling houses, people want to know, where's a great place for date night, and who's a good person for this, and who's a good person for this. Even in our industries of stuff, we have a list of people that we refer out to. We get asked all kinds of stuff, from real estate agents to, do you have an electrician? Well, do you know, obviously, a good plumber? Do you have, the more you, the more people that you work with and connect with, the better your arsenal is, and the more connected you look like, and it makes your business look like it's more alive. Well, and I think the flip side of that is the better that you are at your business, the more people trust your choices. And True. So for me, I stay in my lane. I am a big stay in my lane kind of person. And so for me, if I meet somebody like you, for example, and I like the way that you work, and I know that you do a good job and you run a good company, I am going to come to you for those other things. Whether I think you actually use them or have partners or whatever, I'm going to trust that if you're going to give me a name, it's going to be somebody that you trust. Sure. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts of referring business, is that you can only be responsible for your own business. And unfortunately, things change in people's business models. People change, their model changes, industry issues can affect them. And so I think you're always putting your name on the line when you give a referral.
Sure. That's why we like to have good ones with people that we have personal experience with. So what should someone do if you were giving them advice when they're looking to find a community with other women? What should they look for? Or maybe questions to ask? I know if you're in any kind of business, you probably get recruited by the typical BNIs and all the big networking people and all the stuff. And sometimes you can join those because you're like, oh, okay, these people were nice, but does that really create the community of what you want? Based upon what I've found, that's why I started Ladies Kicking Asses, because I wanted a community of women I could refer work to, and I wanted to be able to give that hand up to these women that may be in this field and actually learn from what other people are doing too. Just because we've been in an industry for a decade doesn't mean that we can't learn from somebody that's newer coming up and stuff. So having that outlet for everything, what questions should people ask? Because often they feel like they get stuck. I know as women, we have a hard time saying that beautiful little word, no, that complete sentence, no. So everything they get invited to, they say yes. What are the things that have been successful for you in finding community?
At the recent, so I'm the incoming chair of the Women in Power Committee at the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce, and the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce has been a really good fit for me and for my business, not only because I really believe that they do advocate for their business partners' needs and ensure that there's a voice for them in the community. But I've also found that the people that I've met through the organization all really want to see me succeed in my business. And so I think that's one thing that I think is really important for women, is for them to understand what they want to get out of the community. And then once they are in the community or they've created the community, does it feel good for them? And I heard the former mayor, Jen Daniels of Gilbert, speak, and she referred to a book I love, which is called Untamed. And they talk about this idea of the people in your life being kind of on a horseshoe instead of on a circle. So you can come in and you can come out. Because I think you're right. What happens with women is we feel bad ejecting ourselves from a situation or saying, no, it's not a good fit. And I think we have to constantly be looking at, we only have so much time in the day. And so if we're doing something and it's not serving us anymore, we need to stop doing it. And we need to find some other community to be a part of. So I think it's really easy. Like you said, if you belong to an industry, you can find people in your own industry that are doing things, people in a related industry. So for you, home services as a overarching branch, if you will. Community also means geography. So that's where chambers and neighborhood associations and HOAs and school boards and, things like that are really based on your location. Community can also mean shared interests. So it could be a hobby, it could be a physical exercise, it could be hiking, it could be dating, it could be, kind of taking inventory of the things that are important to you and determining, of all of those, which do you want to be doing with other people?
Sure.
And so is it business? Is it life? Is it hobbies? Is it kids? Is it geography? Is it space? And so some of the first step of finding community is looking inwards, right? And then really thinking about the time commitment that you have available to you. Do you want to lead something? Do you want to start something? Do you want to just show up to something? Like, what does that look like for you? And how does that fit in your personal life? Kids, can it be during the day? Do you need a babysitter to do it? Right? Because if we try to attach to a community, but the way in which you're going to get the most value out of it is to show up somewhere at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning and you have kids and no babysitter, how many times are you actually going to make it there?
Sure.
Right. So I think looking inwards, figuring out what your passion is, what you want to be involved in, how you want to meet people, and then does the group that you find do the logistics line up for you? There's stuff I see all the time that I would love to get involved in, but they meet on Wednesdays. And Wednesdays don't work for me in my current family structure. And so they're immediately written off Could I sign up and be a part of it and be on their website or be within their community? Sure. Will I get the most value out of it when I can't attend or do the majority of the activities that they have? No. So then it's just not a good fit for me.
Sure.
So I think those are some good things to look at and questions to ask. I think the fact that you started the community says a lot about the fact that there's still a lot of people that don't feel like something exists out there for them today. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot of creation that has to come about for community. And there's a lot of work that the communities that already exist can do to be more inclusive.
Sure.
I think right now a really big skipped audience, and this was part of creating community on purpose, is the people that aren't in an industry that automatically gives them a path to find community. So it may be women who are changing from being stay-at-home moms to working out of the home, or women who had kids whose kids are now older, or women who didn't have kids who now have little kids, life-changing kind of situations where they're now looking for a community, but they don't feel like they fit into anything specifically. And I feel like we're losing a lot of women intuition because these women don't have a path by which to get connected.
Sure.
So I think that that's a big one for me.
I can see that, because being one of those for a long time of like, sure, I can go to this BNI, but I like have nothing in common with this insurance agent, or them like wanting to be like, let's go have coffee or go do stuff. Mm-hmm. And I realized that they may know people that you could network with and do all of those things. But for me, like, time is everything to me. And I only say yes to those things where I feel like there's going to be more of a connection than we just went and had coffee one time, you know?
And I think that's the major check-in is, how does it feel?
Yeah.
I've been to groups before where they do check all the boxes. The time is right. The location is right. I know I could get business from it. But the actual people that are currently involved, they're just not my jam.
Yeah.
And so I'm not excited to go. I probably won't go every time. I think it's a whole hour, whatever the meetup is, that takes me away from doing something else. And so I think you really have to take that inventory. And I think that that's a good lesson for business owners in general. If you're just out there chasing leads, paying for them, or however it is that you think that you're going to get them, that is not a sustainable business model. If you are truly building authentic community and something that you enjoy and you're passionate about and you show up, the business will follow.
Sure. And that is like at the end of every one of my podcasts, I always ask everybody, what does community mean to you? And that is a big portion of that, obviously, for you. Is there anything else you can think of that you would add to that?
I think I would just say that for me, community means this idea that you're not alone. And in a world that is constantly changing, and you as a person who's hopefully constantly growing and evolving and learning and expanding your ideas and, assessing your values and looking at where you want to go and where you're headed, community gives you the structure to know that you're not doing it by yourself. You're not the first. You won't be the last. And hopefully provide some more opportunity for gratitude, because as much of a buzzword as that can be, I really believe that having gratitude in your life can completely change your outlook.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned my podcast earlier, and one of the episodes my operations director was on, and she asked me, who were your biggest supporters? And I, went on a list of who they were. And after I listed them, I felt better. I was happy. I told her I was sitting up taller. I was jazzed because I was talking about people who believed in me and invested in me. And that really gets to a part of you that you can't replicate without true gratitude.
Yeah.
And being in community gives you an opportunity to show gratitude, because you're not doing it by yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think a big part of community too is just like you have so much to give to a community, and going into that community, it feels, in just what we've been involved in together, that you have the mentality of giving so much while you're in there, and people receive so much from that just continues to be this beautiful cyclical thing that you can see, growth and contribution, and you can learn from people that you may not ever even know that you could have learned something from.
And it holds me accountable too, to being positive and growing and learning. If you're not connected to other people and you have bad days, it's much easier to stay in the muck longer because you don't have anyone else to show up for. And it's not about being fake when I say showing up. I just mean showing up. You have people that rely on you just like you rely on other people. And that interconnectedness of you with other people helps you to keep going and helps you to see better and helps you to want to do better and helps you, stay true to the things that you know are true about you, that you've shared are your core pillars, but that are always hard to stick with all the time, right? You say you're a positive person, you have crappy days. If you don't have anybody in your world to talk to or who sees you or whatever, who's going to ever know if you just decided to get lazy and have crappy days every day instead?
Sure.
So to me, community is about having an accountability partner for the things that you think are important in life.
Yes. So good. So good. Thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone where is the greatest places to find you online.
Sure. So you can find the Amy Jones Group at amyjonesgroup.com. Community on Purpose just launched. So there is a communityonpurpose.org that gives you a little bit of information about who we are, but certainly that's going to continue to develop over time. We are on all the socials. So Facebook and Instagram, Amy Jones Group. And you can find me personally also on LinkedIn. But really, any way that you see the Amy Jones Group, please reach out to us. We are all here to chat, to get into community, to learn and grow how to be better. And now I'm excited to be part of the Ladies Kicking Ass community too.
Yes, and her podcast is now available too to subscribe to. So take a listen to that. It's Community on Purpose. You can find that all over the place. Are you all over the place now?
All the places.
Excellent.
All the places you would listen to podcasts.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And ladies, if you want to connect with somebody that is just an incredible, authentic human being, look her up. You have to find her and connect with her. She's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. I would love to invite you to become part of our exclusive community on Facebook groups. There is so much value there in inspiring you to chase your goals and coaching you on how to get there. Plus, you get the support of other women from across the world who have also joined. You can also find us all over social media and at our website, ladieskickinass.com. All social media platform links are in the show notes below, so we've made it nice and easy for you. Be sure to join so you are the first to hear about exciting programs and announcements that we have coming up. And ladies, there's some good stuff. And never miss a notification for an exciting new podcast episode release. If you yourself are a lady that is kicking some serious ass and you have an awesome story that you would love to share with our audience about running your business while raising your family and becoming the woman of your dreams, I want to talk to you. Check out our website at ladieskickinass.com/podcast, where you can apply to be a guest on our show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Tell me what you think of it with a rating and share this episode with anyone you think it may inspire or help. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next Friday. Bye for now.